Message Starvia that they go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we are now live.
Thank you very much. Can I call the meeting to Madeline? Sorry, thank you. Yeah, so good evening all and welcome to members, officers, the press and public joining the Local Development Committee. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. So welcome to everyone viewing on YouTube. To minimize trouble, most officers are joined tonight's meeting via Zoom. Can everyone present hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
Everyone online hear me? Great, thank you very much. My name is Councillor James Beckles, the chair of this committee. For the members in the room, when you are speaking, can you please speak clearly and loudly so that the microphone can pick up what you say. For those joining by Zoom, please mute your microphone if you are not speaking. I will now ask the members of the committee and officers to introduce themselves. So starting from my left.
Good evening, Councillor Sarah Ruiz, Custom House Ward.
Councillor Karen Corbin, Maryland Ward.
Thank you.
Councillor Philip Kalolak, Mrs. Hampton.
Councillor Hushbang Kwana, Lashard Ward.
Councillor Clinton Benapon. Councillor Madeline Sarli Ponson, Forest Gate South.
Thank you very much. And to my right, officer,
Baroness of the Same Democratic Service.
and those members online, starting with you, Hannah. Councillors on, sorry, officers online.
Sorry,
Thank you.
just trying to unmute myself. I'm Hannah Richardson. I'm Development Manager for Planning.
And I'm Jane Custance. I'm the Director of Planning and Development. Turning over to Alex.
Thanks, Jane. Alex O'Dwyer, Solicitor.
Louis Moore, Principal Planner.
Sam Foley, Programme Director for Residential and Leisure Assets.
Thank you very much, officers. I want to remind members that when a vote is taken, it will be by the way of raising your hand in order that we can capture this on screen. Ramadan Mubarak, and I wish Ramadan Mubarak to all observing this holy month. As a number of our members and officers will be breaking, we don't need to do that because we're all done. But thank you all very much for turning up. I know it's an important time of year. Minutes of the meeting held on 30th of January 2024, which is found on pages 11. Can we review those and agree the minutes, please? Councillor McMahon. 9:13. Okay, can we make an amendment? Yeah. Councillor Falola.
I was here, my name was.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other additions, changes? Okay, can we all agree the minutes?
Agreed.
Thank you all very much. Apologies. Do you have any apologies? I have one from Councillor Saeed Bashir.
Yeah, and I have a few from Councillors Muthiba Rahman, Tony Wilson, Sabia Kamali and Mohammed Ghani.
Thank you very much. Any more apologies? None? Okay. And are there any declarations of interest? Item 3 for the items. Okay, there are none. Determining planning applications. Members are asked to note that the advice from the head of legal services on determining planning applications, is that noted? Thank you all very much. Item 5, requests to address this committee. The committee has received the following request to address the committee. Would the speakers please identify themselves when I call out their name? So Sam Fowding, item 6. Sam, I see you're there, Sam. And Ben Hunt. Sam, are you speaking?
Yeah, I'm representing Ben. Ben sends his apologies. Thank you.
Okay, the usual practice is to allow up to 5 minutes in total for both supporters and objectors. Is that agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I call Lewis Moore, Planning Officer, to present the only application this evening?
Yeah, sure. I'll just show my screen now. Oh, it says the host disabled participant screen sharing. I think it needs to be.
It should work now, Lewis. We just try one.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, members. My name is Louis and I'm presenting item 6 this evening, which is a Section 73 application to a previous planning permission at Dev House, 46 Balaam Street, Plaistow. The application has been made to vary condition 2 of the planning permission 21-00416 VAR, granted on the 23rd of February 2022. The application proposes to change the tenure of the approved affordable housing offer, switching the shared ownership units to discount market rent units. That variation was the variation of the original permission, which I'll go into detail in a second. The application site is located on the east side of Balaam Street and previously comprised of an MOT garage. The southwest portion of the plot, located outside the application site's red line boundary, are the properties known as number 44 and 46 Balaam Street. These properties are subdivided, having been the subject of a number of previous applications to convert the properties to residential. The site is adjoined to the south and east by number 42 Balaam Street, a Grade 2 listed building, and is utilised by the charity Helping Hands. To the east of the site, located behind the gardens associated with number 42, lies retirement living accommodation on Roundtree Clifford Close. And to the south, the application site is located in proximity of Balaam Leisure Centre, as well as the Grade 2 listed Memorial Church, Social Centre and Minister's House. These photos on the slide depict the elevations as constructed in view from Balaam Street. These photos on the slide depict the development during its construction. As you can see, Balaam Street kind of curving around the side here. This is from the other angle, looking at the rear of the site. The application site has been subject to various applications previously, including the following two approved by the Local Development Committee. 1802574 FUL, which was for the demolition of the existing auto fitting centre and erection of two to 4-storey blocks comprising a total of 21 apartments, together with associated means of access and landscaping. And then 21-00416 VAR, which was a Section 73 application to vary condition 2, the approved plans, for reconfiguration of the third floor elevations and roof to Block B. This variation application essentially seeks to alter the approved affordable housing tenure mix, switching the existing shared ownership units to discount market rent related to that 21 VAR application. So in terms of site context, since the previous approval, the site reached practical completion in June 2022. In March 2023, following Cabinet approval, the London Borough of Newham purchased the entire development to assist in the reduction of the council's reliance on costly, insecure, nightly let accommodations. Following practical completion and purchase of the property, a long lease with a housing provider was agreed and the development has since been largely occupied. At present, all units within the development are occupied except for the shared ownership units. As the council is now the freeholder of the development, all units are being provided as low-cost rental for persons on the housing waiting list and within temporary accommodation. Due to the restrictions on the existing approved development, the shared ownership units are unable to be let out on such basis and currently are vacant. The applicant therefore proposes for the affordable housing offer approved under the previous application to be amended to allow for these units to be provided as discount market rent so they can be provided on a rental basis for persons on the housing waiting list and within temporary accommodation. Just a reminder of Section 73s, they can be made to make a material amendment by varying or removing conditions associated with a planning permission. There is no statutory limit on the degree of change permissible to a conditions under Section 73, but the change must only relate to conditions, in this case, condition 2. There are restrictions to Section 73 applications, which are that it cannot be used to extend the 3-year time limit or introduce changes that result in the description of development being altered. To confirm, in this instance, the scheme has been constructed and thus the time limit no longer applies, and it's not considered the proposal would alter the original description. New permissions made under Section 73 sit alongside the original permission and any other Section 73 permissions which remain intact and unamended, and therefore it's for the applicant to choose whether to carry out the original or new permissions. The scheme has since been constructed in line with the previous variation application. To reiterate, the applicant could continue to follow the housing mix applied under that scheme if they wish to. The Section 73 decision for this application would also be clearly expressed as such and would also take note of any conditions that have been previously discharged from the previous permission. Additionally, as there is a legal agreement for this development, any Section 73 application would be subject to a deed of variation for the original legal agreement to be updated following the proposed amendments. Above are the key considerations for the proposed amendments. These are the principle of development, housing offer, impacts to neighbouring amenity, and conditions and informatives. These are considered key considerations as the amendments sought to re-trigger a revisit of the assessment of these considerations. The proposed development, in terms of principal development, the proposed development will continue to provide 21 homes, making a positive contribution to the housing target delivery within an existing residential environment. The proposed development therefore remains consistent with the objectives of the aforementioned policies and is considered to be acceptable with regards to the principle of development consideration. In terms of housing officer, policies in the London Plan maintain the importance of providing affordable housing and set a strategic target of 50% of all new homes to be affordable with an individual site threshold level of 35%. Policy H6 of the London Plan applies greater flexibility in terms of the split, but still requires 30% social to affordable rent and 30% intermediate products. Policy H2 in Newham's local plan reinforces the London Plan policy aspirations and requires that all new developments of 10 or more units provide affordable housing on site, subject to viability. The approved scheme provides 23.8% affordable housing overall, which is split into 14.3% social rent, which is 60% of overall affordable units, and 9.5% shared ownership, and intermediate product, which is 40% of overall units. This minor material application proposed to provide the same overall level of affordable housing and also the same split of 60% social to 40% intermediate. However, the intermediate shared ownership would now be discount market rent with no shared ownership within the scheme, as outlined on the following slide, showing comparative mix of affordable housing between the approved and proposed scheme. This highlighted in yellow columns indicates the changes and the switching. Effectively, it's the same units that offer shared ownership would now be for discount market rent and no changes to any of the other tenures or unit mixes. The applicant has confirmed that the discount market rent units would be provided at an equivalent level of affordability to the shared ownership units. The applicant has stated that the units to be provided at a maximum of 70% of market rent and linked to housing benefit and universal credit to ensure their affordability. The applicant has stated that all nominations for the units will come from the council's housing waiting list. The applicant has also outlined that the retention of these units as shared ownership would only benefit those in the borough who have deposit and salary income to support purchase. As the council now own the entirety of the development and are running it on a low-cost rental basis, the current shared ownership units are currently vacant. The applicant states the changes in tenure of these units will allow for additional households who may not have the necessary salary and/or deposit to utilise shared ownership product to move out of costly nightly paid accommodation. On behalf of the council, BNP Paribas have reviewed the financial viability appraisal submitted with the original scheme and assessed the proposed tenure changes against the assessment made within that original financial viability assessment. BNP Paribas have concluded the change in tenure would raise additional monies of circa £5,400, which could be regarded as cost neutral from a viability perspective in the context of the size and scale of development. Overall, taking into account the nominal change in the viability position of the scheme and the proposed alteration, and the fact that the proposed alteration would still be an intermediate product and not alter the overall mix of social to affordable and intermediate provisions, officers consider the proposal to be acceptable in terms of the provision of affordable housing and will continue to meet an identified need and is consistent with the objectives of the aforementioned policies. In terms of housing mix, in the approved permission, the two shared ownership units were not the sole units available for purchase. The majority of the units were for private sale of 76.2%. It is considered that the increase in overall rental units by 2 units would not detrimentally impact the unit mix of the scheme and character of development, particularly when considering the shared ownership and discount market rent are both intermediate products and either could have been considered acceptable options at the time of assessment of the approved scheme from a policy perspective. The units that were designated as shared ownership in the approved scheme are the same units that are proposed for the discount rent units, and therefore, based on the above policy context and the fact that both products are policy supported, this is considered acceptable from a housing mix perspective. Therefore, for the reasons outlined, the proposal is therefore supported in terms of affordable housing and housing mix and consistent with the overall objectives of the development plan in this regard. In terms of impacts on neighbouring amenity, the proposal would not result in any changes to the design of the development nor the total permitted occupiers compared to the approved scheme. As such, officers do not consider the change in tenure of the 2 units to result in any increased impacts to neighbouring amenity. Officers note the submission of one neighbouring objection which relates to damage potentially caused during the construction phase of development. Officers have carefully reviewed this objection and do not consider the issues raised in material planning considerations as they are civil matters between the relevant property owners and developers. Notwithstanding, officers have provided detailed advice and directed the neighbouring occupier to various resources and contacts that may be able to help resolve the concerns raised within the letter received. Therefore, for the reasons outlined, officers consider subject to any recommended conditions, the proposal is supported in regards to neighbouring amenity considerations. As outlined within the above assessment, the proposed amendments as detailed are considered acceptable for approval. Considering this application as a material amendment to the existing permission, careful consideration of the existing conditions has been undertaken with determination of any that need to be altered or amended to account for the amendments or approval of details that have happened since the previous approval. Since the previous approval, several approval of detail applications have been submitted to and approved by the local planning authority, and now all conditions requiring submission of details have been approved. Therefore, all conditions have been reworded to reflect this and ensure the details as approved are carried out and retained in perpetuity where necessary. Officers have also reviewed the relevance of some conditions and informative now based on the site's current context and the fact that development is now constructed and largely occupied. Whilst the majority of the original conditions and informatives shall be imposed, as many require details to be retained or continued management and monitoring in order to safeguard the design and quality of development, some conditions and informatives specifically relating to construction phase development can now be amended or removed. Officers consider the previous conditions relating to demolition and construction management plan, condition 3, condition 20, hours of construction, condition 22, control of dust and emissions from construction demolition, are now not relevant and should be removed. In addition, several of the informatives provided advice relating to the required submission of details for various conditions or providing advice relating to construction phase. Since all conditions requiring approval of details have since been discharged and the construction phase has been completed, some of these informatives are no longer considered necessary and others have been adapted. As such, the previous informative 3, Metropolitan Police informative, informative 4, Historic England glass informative, are removed, and informative 5, environmental health informative, has been adapted to reflect the current site context, removing advice relating to the construction phase since this is completed. And finally, another fundamental requirement of the approved scheme was for the applicant to enter a deed of variation for the Section 106 agreement signed with the original application. The heads of term for this Section 106 agreement are outlined in Appendix 10 and remain pertinent to this amended proposal, subject to the Section 73 application. Therefore, in seeking to approve the amended application, a modification under Section 106A of the Town and Country Planning Act is required to associate this planning permission pursuant to Section 73 of the Act to the principal agreement. The above list provides other considerations in the assessment of the Section 73 application. However, the change proposed under this application does not result in material change to the assessment of these considerations. These are the Epping Forest Special Area of Conservation considerations. With respect of all other matters, the proposal is supported as detailed on pages 11 and 12 of the committee report. Therefore, the Local Development Committee is asked to resolve to agree the reasons for approval as set out in the committee report and delegate authority to the Director of Planning to grant planning permission subject to the completion of a legal agreement under Section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990, based on the heads of terms identified at Appendix 9 of the committee report and conditions listed in Appendix 8 of the committee report. Thank you. I'd be happy to ask any questions.
Thank you very much, Lewis. And before I allow any questions from members, Sam, can I bring you in?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
You have 5 minutes. Let me know when you begin now. Do you have a presentation or are you speaking?
No, I can just short to say the 2 units that are proposed to be flipped from shared ownership to intermediate will be used as an alternative to costly nightly paid accommodation. So this scheme was acquired as part of the council's acquisition programme that sits alongside the Mayor's manifesto target of acquiring 500 new homes to be used as an alternative to costly nightly paid temporary accommodation. So we acquired this 21 unit scheme last year. It had 2 shared ownership units. We took the decision to flip these to discounted market rent that will provide the council with 2 additional units to be used as an alternative to costly nightly paid accommodation. So number one, it will save the council some quite significant sums in nightly paid accommodation having these 2 units available, and it also gives 2 families good quality accommodation within Newham. But nothing further from me.
Okay, thank you very much. And well within time. Any questions from members? No questions. Okay. Councillor Falola.
Yes, I heard you about the chairmanship and the rent. Now, what is the term? As I know the term for chairmanship is that you have to have deposits and stuff like that. Are you going to consider people living in Newham first for chairmanship, or just anybody?
Sorry, Chair.
Did you hear what I said?
Did you get that?
Can I just confirm the question was that would these units be going to people in Newham rather than for shared ownership. Was that the question? Sorry, the line's not that clear.
Yeah, I believe, yeah. Just clarify your question.
The share ownership, is it gonna be for people in Newham or just anybody?
They're converting it from shared ownership to discount market rent. Yeah, so just to clarify Councillor Lola's question, I believe he's asking whether these two properties will be going towards people in Newham in terms of market rent. At the
Thank you. Yeah, so
rent.
they'll be based on discounted market rent, and they will be going to people that are currently in temporary accommodation. So in essence, on Newham's housing register, a suitability assessment will be carried out, and then they'll be housed within them. So that it's people that are Newham have a duty to house.
Okay. Any further questions? And can I clarify, in terms of the change from shared ownership to discount market rent, is it because the shared ownership was too expensive or requiring the criteria too high? Or was there a need because of our housing register that we shift to a discount market rent, making it more affordable for Newham residents, for instance, and those on lower income?
Correct, at the latter point there. So we've just seen that it would be more beneficial to Newham residents to have these as discounted market rent, given that the scheme was acquired for the purposes of an alternative to temporary accommodation.
Okay.
And they've been empty the entire time that the built ownership units.
Yeah.
So it's just basically.
Yes.
So effectively, they could have housed, like, for example, if the initial application did not include the two shared ownership units, they could have been housing people all of that time.
Yeah.
Correct, yes. So when we were going through negotiations with the developer, we were encouraging them to make this application before we completed, but there was a bit of a hold up on it. So unfortunately, they have been vacant. But from a lessons learned point of view, where we're acquiring schemes with Section 106s with shared ownership, going forward within Newham, we'll start this process a lot earlier on.
Okay, so this would be a much more proactive process in the future, that where schemes, because shared ownership often can be quite expensive products for some people, and we have quite a high waiting list. So therefore, if we can shift at a quicker stage to discount market rent or even cheaper than that, that would be quite advantageous to our residents. Councillor Ruiz, please come in.
I just am assuming that even though a large percentage of these, or a large percentage, are private, and then there are some social, I presume that because the council have bought this, or we developed it, they're not private, they're all social housing units. Yeah.
Correct. So all the private units have been in planning terms have stayed private, but we rent them out at local housing allowance, so 70 to 80% of market rent.
Cool.
Sorry, just to understand the shared ownership thing, because I'm used to normally shared ownership being between housing associations. So theoretically, how would that work with the council? Because if the council owns them, somebody would go into shared ownership with Newham Council, is that correct?
Yeah. Officer, would you like to clarify Councillor Corbyn's question?
Yeah, so if they'd remained as shared ownership, they would be shared owners with the council, so the council would continue to be the freeholder. So there's a couple of schemes that the Affordable Homes for Newham team are currently building that will have shared ownership in them, and the council will be the freeholder of those units, and then we'll sell those shared ownership units.
Yeah. Very much. Councillor Falola.
Yeah. Considering the area, the location of the property, you have a small tiny road that's always busy all the time, and there's traffic on the other side. Have you considered what you're going to do for the residents who are using this road while the building is going?
It's that the building's already there. It's not.
It's to convert. Yeah. Okay.
And
you
very nice it looks too.
That's good. Okay. Were there any other questions? Okay, Louis, can you bring the recommendations back up?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, members, the Local Development Committee.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Presentation, it goes straight back to the beginning. Oh, there you go.
Okay, we got them. Thank you very much. So the Local Development Committee is asked to resolve: one, agree the reasons for approval as set out in the committee report, the update report, and delegate authority to the Director of Planning and Development to grant planning permission subject to the completion of a legal agreement under Section 106 and other sections of the Town and Country Act 1990. If we're happy with sections 1 and 2 of the recommendation, are we in favour? Please show of hands. That is unanimous from everyone in the room to approve. Much. So that item has been approved. Thank you, officers, for bringing that. Item 7 is dated for the next meeting will be the 22nd of April, 2024. So thank you everyone for turning up, and I will see you at the next meeting.
Quickest LDC.
I was gonna say that.
Yes. And thank you, officers, for your diligence